Welcome to Inside Auto Podcast, where we feature everyone and anyone you'd want to talk to in and out of the automotive industry.
Ilana Shabtai here, host of Inside Auto Podcast, where we interview top dealers, GMs, marketers, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders in and out of the automotive industry. And before we introduce today's guest, this episode is sponsored by AutoLeadStar.com. The AutoLeadStar platform is built on a technology so powerful, it allows you to market, sell, and service cars as you would in the real world, online and at scale, making one-to-one matches between shoppers and inventory. AutoLeadStar is the only platform that is powered by scale, speed, and specificity to change the way dealers do marketing today. Today's guest, which we're super excited about, is Marija Cvetkovska. Marija, how are you doing today?
Oh, doing wonderful. I'm just getting ready for that big meal in a couple of days. So
I know, and I'm so jealous.
Getting ready to cook.
Nice. Yeah, what are you cooking?
Oh, everything. I'm doing everything A to Z, turkey and, lamb chops and, you gotta do the cultural part because, when you have people that are foreign coming to your house and you serve them turkey, they will not eat it. So you gotta do the lamb chops and then you gotta do the turkey and you gotta do chicken strips for the kids and all of it. So yeah.
Wow, you're covering all the bases. Well, it sounds like you're an amazing hostess and I need to make it over to your place one of these days.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for our conversation today, but before we start, I just want to give you a quick intro because your background is really impressive. I want people listening to know who we're talking to. Marija now works for PCG Digital as a paid search specialist. Prior to joining PCG, Marija was an accomplished business development manager at two major Michigan dealer groups. In 2019 and 2020, she received the Mark of Excellence Award from Cadillac, which only 3 BDC managers receive nationwide, which is unbelievable. Congratulations on that. And then for those of you who are familiar with Marija, it's because she speaks regularly on podcasts and workshops and conference presentations. Really quick facts. So outside of work, Marija likes to cook. So now I understand where all this cooking is coming from because I would never volunteer ever to make all of that. Watching football and basketball and reading. She's also fluent in 4 languages. Basically, she's a superstar. So we're going to hear all about her and her automotive background today. Thank you for joining us again.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. So I would love to start the conversation around the topic of moving from a dealership, from the retail side to the vendor side. And as you pointed out, we spoke about this a little bit before we started recording, but there seems to be a trend of dealer talent moving from retail to vendor side. Not necessarily that it's always happening, but there's definitely an uptick. So give us some insight on this transition and what inspired it for you and what you think is going on in the automotive industry.
Okay, so obviously it happened mid-COVID, past COVID, if I have to say. So it was a year after the COVID happened. All up to that point, everything that was happening in dealerships and within the dealerships was kind of manageable. And I like the grind and I love being in front of the customers and just talking to them, being in BDC and being in marketing. I was on the phone a lot with both customers and vendors and the salespeople, managers. So I had that part just satisfied my need to talk and communicate with people. So I loved it, but then COVID happened. And what happened with COVID was that in my particular role, I was the one that was left to work in a dealership. And I was the only one that was kept out of the BDC and marketing team, and everybody else was, unfortunately had to, they had to be let go for a minute, and then we called them all back. But it kind of did this thing, I got shooken up. I did not like telling people that we cannot keep them on through, and we didn't know when this is going to end. It was just that uncertainty that just bothered me on a human level. So after they all come back, and we had one of the busiest fall and winters of all times in automotive. We also had inventory at that time. So nobody knew that this.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just we were super busy. We're working day and night. And, I just felt what if, and then they were talking about closures again. towards the winter and holidays, and the cases were going up, and the vaccine was still not a thing like back in like a January. So I just like felt like I don't know if I can emotionally go through another close down. So I started looking into something that, will not have to put me through all of that. And I purposely looked for a role that's not going to be a management role because again, I just got affected on a human level, and I just needed a change in that aspect. So I got like introduced to a lot of people through automotive, through the conferences, and like a lot of like wonderful women working in automotive. We talked to each other, and then I got introduced to Denise from PCG, and she was hiring, and we had a few conversations with Denise and the Glenn Pash, and I came on board in March of this year, actually. So it's going. I'm going on to my 9 months with PCG, and it's just different. I'm remote. I am still talking to dealers because I have like a bunch of like accounts that I'm working on, but I don't have a team of people. I work on my accounts, and I only talk to the dealers who are customers. So like it's a little bit way different, but
Yeah.
as far as the trends of why this is happening, I actually talked to a couple of people that also switched from dealerships and went into the vendors, and those are some people that also have been kind of active on LinkedIn, going and either having their own podcast or attending the events and podcasts and all of that. And I think what happens was, when people are in marketing and they're marketers by nature, being in a dealership, they feel like stuck because any idea that they have about like creative stuff and the things that they can do to move the brand forward and build the brand, it's you come back and you're excited. You're like, I want to do this and I want to do this. And like, I'm going to make this video and I'm going to make this. And then you get like a big no slapped at you because they don't see an immediate ROI when you're trying to build a brand. So like people get discouraged and just, like they have enough at some point. The other thing that like I discovered when I talked to a few of my peers that switched was the hours and the inability of most dealerships in the country to realize that our jobs can be done remotely. And if not fully remote, then at least, like have the flexibility of going remote when needed. Because lots of people in my role, BDC manager, marketing managers, not that all of us are, but most of us are, family oriented and females. And we don't look for like any kind of special arrangements. It's not about that. We just like need to have that flexibility to when we need it, because we do take care of our families on top of working and doing everything else. So having that flexibility will not just help, people stay in the dealerships, but will also attract talent from, other industries to come in automotive. Because I work 9 to 9 on Mondays and Thursdays and every Saturday. I have not had a Black Friday off in 7 years.
Wow.
So like, those are the things that like I'm now learning to appreciate. And I don't know if I can go back unless I would have something like, a deal where, I would have the option to, go partly remote or all remote if that's a possibility.
Yeah. So I think, well, in general, for the dealers listening, I think flexibility is going to be huge to attract and retain the talent that they're looking for. But something else that you said that I'd love to expand on is that marketers, you mentioned that you feel like marketers in dealerships can't be as creative as they'd like to be. And I'm really hoping that as an industry, we're changing that. I don't know how you feel about that, or maybe from the vendor side, there's more leeway in the sense that like you can maybe influence that from the vendor versus the person at the dealership, which isn't necessarily better. But I'm wondering what you think about like the industry actually working toward getting better at that, or do you feel like it's a little bit more stuck?
I feel like that the industry is changing, but it's changing very slow. There's obviously leaders in this area, and there are dealerships out there that are doing phenomenal job when it comes to, their marketing and creative and like their organic posting. And you had April, I think, a couple of weeks ago from a Horde Automotive. I mean, they're doing a phenomenal job.
She's the first person that came to mind when you were saying that, because I said, she's doing everything she can to be creative and create her brand. But of course, not every dealership is like that. And not every dealership has an April. So,
well, and she also had to work really, really hard and to work 20 plus years to get to that point where she's trusted to just do that. And that's the problem. Like a lot of people in dealerships are not there 20 plus years and they don't have a say. And again, going to back that, because dealerships are 30-day cycle type of business. So everything happens within 30 days. And on day one of the new month, we start all over again. The incentives start new every first of the month. And there's not like such thing as like planning or budgeting or like having like a yearly reviews for like what we're going to do in next 12 months and stuff like that. In most dealerships, this doesn't happen. Again, there's so many dealerships that are doing it and they do stand out. There's a reason they stand out. But when I'm talking about the dealerships that don't do it, I'm talking about like probably like 80% of the dealerships in this country that don't. And when you're somebody that wants to come in and wants to post on Facebook and take pictures around and make a video and do all of this around the store, the way most generals see that is like you're not doing anything. You're playing with your camera. And it's just sad, like it's like it hurts your feelings. Like it's just like, hey, like I'm really trying to make our dealership a brand. I'm really trying to get our reviews up, and I'm really trying to get us more customers, because you do care about the physical actual leads and lead forms or phone calls. Well, you get more of those if people know who you are and know what you're standing for. Because end of the day, with the modern retail and with digital retail coming into play, we're not going to have so much on a price to haggle on. Like it's so important right now. It's like we have the better price, but like the way the industry is right now, and lots of people going into that direction where transparency is going to be a thing, and it's going to be like kind of like a one price model for lots of dealers in the future. I think that people need to really take it seriously and work on building that brand, because once you're able to just get that same car anywhere and the price is the same, the only decision as a consumer that you're going to have to make is where to get it. And you're going to make that based on that brand that has been or not been created.
Yeah. And I think that's a good segue into talking about marketing during the chip shortage, because a lot of the dealers that we speak to, and again, it depends on, when we spoke to them and which kind of dealer it is, but a lot of them, the gut instinct was to stop all marketing or pause all marketing because there's suddenly no inventory. But as we got into it, it's actually one of the most competitive times for a dealer, because exactly what you're saying, it's all about where are you going to get your car when cars aren't available? Like, who is going to give you that amazing customer experience that's going to have the consumer wait 3 months for them to lease that Subaru Forester that they're looking for? So, obviously I'm a proponent of focusing on brand strategy and service and figuring out how to continue the marketing strategy so that you do stand out as a brand and don't lose that momentum when inventory does come back. I'd love to know what you think about marketing during this time, and again, like how that ties into the importance of brand campaigns.
So two sides. Like when I was at the dealership, COVID happened, same kind of thing. Everybody jumped the ship and start canceling everything left and right. Even though the vendors came up and said, we're going to do 50% off for 3 months. We're going to do free for like 90 days or something like that. Dealerships still went and canceled. Same thing is happening right now with this shortage. And it's just, again, going to that point of like 80% of the dealers are just not getting it. And I am like very like loud when it comes to that point and saying like, please do not cancel anything, not even lower the budget. If anything, increase the budget, just move it around to appropriate channels. So I'm not saying that go ahead and run your new inventory dynamic campaigns when you have 5 cars on the lot. Right. Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like, figure out how to build the campaigns. Are you trying to buy more vehicles? Awesome. Build a campaign that will get people to sell you their cars without trading their cars. Because most people out there are thinking, if I'm going to go and sell my cars to a dealership, I will have to get something else in between. But lots of dealerships are now buying inventory no matter what, but nobody's advertising that. Dealers are doing wonderful, especially this time of the year with like actions, and they're like joining like Gleaners and Little Dog for the Blind and all the Subaru efforts with all the dog and like all these charities, and they're feeding America, literally, like giving thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to charity, yet nobody is talking about it. And that is something that they can like build their complete brand on, because they partner with this. They give to cancer foundations year round. They do the walks. Dealership personnel goes out and do this like 3-mile, 5-mile work because somebody in the dealership is affected or their family members are. But nobody's ever talking about it. It's not on the websites. It's not on the Facebook pages. Every time you see anything the dealership does with charity is like if somebody from the dealership was doing it and they posted on their personal message. Right. They are not asking their employees to share the content that they're so it's like I would definitely not cut the marketing. And at PCG we're like educating and working with our clients on making sure that they're still satisfied. We understand it's hard when you don't have cars to sell, but your service department's still open. You can still have a tire campaign that's really successful because it's winter. You can have videos to teach your customers how to winterize their cars if they're in the area where there's snow, or if they're in an area where there's salt from the ocean. So like there's so many different things that you can do to help your customers, because the inventory is going to come back, and then what? Right. And I don't want to even go into the thing where you're going to lose the position with like Google and Facebook and all of this, and you're going to have to pay like triple the amount to get your old position back, because some people did not cancel the marketing portion of your budget. So
right. And I would also say that because it's not just that they're going to pay double, but it's also that dealers have the budget now. It's not that there's no inventory and there are no sales. And I think that would be a very different type of crisis, but it's actually dealers are grossing higher. And it's just it's almost like the pipeline has been shifted. Like the cars are now just sold before they come to the lot. But it seems like dealers are enjoying it, and it's beneficial, and especially because the budget is there, I would say. You end up losing more because you, like you said, lose your positioning, and then you're going to have to, pay triple the amount for a lead when you don't have to necessarily do that, and you have the budget to cover it for this time. Now, just because of your history with working with BDCs, I'm interested in knowing if you have any practical tips for dealers listening about how BDCs maybe will shift during a time like either during the pandemic or even with a chip shortage. Like what types of things do you think about when you think about a successful BDC during something like this? Are there different scripts that you implement? Are there, do you search for leads in a different way depending on like if you have a vehicle acquisition strategy for the dealership? I'd love to hear a little bit about that, just so we can, get some of your BDC knowledge, even though that's not necessarily where you're at anymore.
That's okay. I love talking about BDC. I think I'm going to be talking about BDC next 20 years and following that area, because I think it's really important. And I see it changing in a way where like lots of dealerships are now considering that, A to Z model. And I think that if they are going to go in that direction fully, or like lots of stores are going to go into that direction, they will still need some type of help, some type of like a BDC. So the way the BDCs looks like might change, but what BDCs do to the dealership will never change. And ideally, in 2021, 2022 and beyond, I think it's important for BDCs and salespeople, they're answering to the leads, to, like almost like get off the script. Mm-hmm. Because nothing about this time of, nothing about this inventory shortage, nothing about COVID, nothing about any of this could have anybody ever written in any script ever.
Right.
But there's something about like dealerships and like some salespeople, because when you walk into every store in the nation, there's like 1 or 2 salespeople that have been there 30 plus years, and they are selling 30, 40, 50 units a month. And anytime you talk to one of those people, there's one thing in common: customer service. They're phenomenal at customer service follow-up and helping their customers and going that extra mile to help their customers. Is it them going and picking up their car for the service? Is it them talking about their like car, for, their cousin when they got into an accident and they helped them out with, like a different make and model? Like anything that they can do, they're their trusted person for any automotive need. Like, so anything happens that's auto related, even if it's not for that dealership or that model and make, this person is there for the customer. So I see the BDCs like developing in that area where like they're going to be helping customers with their needs.
Yeah, I love
when
that.
When the customer calls in and they're either, like looking for a car, looking for service, the BDCs need to be able to figure out how they can help. Yes, scripts are important because this is how we get, the information and how we get like people to, but we're moving away from that appointment setter, because people don't want to come in if they're not getting the information that they're asking for. People get off chat because they are not getting the information they're getting off. People get off Facebook Messenger because they're not getting information off. We live in an era where everything is instant, right? Like I need it now, I want it right away. And if you don't do it, somebody else will. So dealerships needs to change the focus, go into a customer service shoes and help their customers understand. And if customer wants to come in, they'll come in regardless. You really don't have to set the appointment. If you do a really, really, really good job on serving that customer, answering all of their questions and helping them, I bet you like anything you want, they will still come to your dealership without the appointment and buy a car from you. So like we need to change that focus of like solely like, I need all of your information before I give you any information. And I need to set appointment no matter what. We just need to communicate and talk to them the way they want to be talked to. So if they're talking to us on Facebook Messenger, we talk to them on Facebook Messenger. If they're talking to us on chat, there's a reason they want to talk to us on chat. We continue to talk to them on chat. If they're calling, we're calling them back. If they're emailing, we're emailing them back. But the times where like you get a lead and you start calling them for 90 days and they never answer, and like it's a waste of time for BDC, it's a waste of time for sales. It's just basically spending the money where you don't supposed to. If somebody's asking for a text, we gotta text them. Obviously, follow the guidelines, regulations for like texting or messaging. But if somebody is asking for a text, we gotta text them. If somebody wants an email, we gotta email. So I'm like talking to the customers like what they are, human, helping them, focusing on customer service, and they will come in and buy cars from us. No questions about it. That's like my take on where the future is. I don't know like how exactly that's gonna look like.
No, but that's okay.
But I think that's where it's going, or it should be going.
Yeah. So being more authentic, and especially in times of crisis like this, where a lot is unpredictable, almost ditch the script, have the training, ditch the script so that you can be authentic and just be customer centric, which of course is the number one priority for dealers on and offline.
Exactly. 100%. Because, like if you have a customer and let's say you're a salesperson that answers the leads, right? And then you have like somebody that like sent in, they wanted more information on, let's say, that Subaru Forester you were talking about earlier. And they wanted to know if this particular car comes in, blue with this particular package. But you send them this long email that's like 4 pages long. They did not answer their questions, and you send them everything that they did not want to know. You're going to lose them.
Yeah.
If you had that same customer come to the showroom, meet and greet and say, hey, I'm looking at the Forester. I'm interested in this particular package. I want to limit it. I just want to know if it comes in the blue. I don't know what Subaru blue is called, but like I want to know if it's coming in this blue. As a salesperson, you're going to be like, okay, great. So you're looking at blue Foresters. Are any other colors that you're interested in? You start with questions. You start with interview. You're starting with serving them, right?
Mhm.
But online, when they're in the messenger and where they're in the phone call or the text, what do? We send them this mile-long emails. We leave them voicemails like, "Hi, my name is Maria, and I'm calling. I just want to see if you're still interested in the Subaru Forester. Goodbye."
Yeah. No one wants to call that back.
Nobody wants to deal with that.
Yeah.
There's a reason people send us to Google Voice numbers.
Yeah.
I noticed this trend like 2 or 3 years ago. Nobody's even leaving the real phone number. There's no real names. It's just like it's happening, and dealers are not realizing why. It's because we're not giving them what they're asking for. Simple as that.
Yeah. Well, I think we could talk about BDC best practices for a whole other episode. So let's save that. But Marija, thank you so much for joining us today. I think we covered a lot. We talked about everything from your new transition from retail to vendor and how that influences your work, and the chip shortage, and a little bit about the pandemic, and then of course practical tips for BDCs and the direction that we think that BDCs are going, which is obviously customer-centric based. So thank you so much for all of your knowledge. And for those who listened in and like this episode, please tune in insideautopodcast.com. Thank you again, Marija.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Inside Auto Podcast. Check out our other episodes with top entrepreneurs and industry leaders.